Have you ever gone to bed completely exhausted yet the moment your head hits the pillow, your brain suddenly comes alive? Or maybe you fall asleep easily, but you wake up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., or 4 a.m., staring at the ceiling while your mind races. Most people assume they have a sleep problem. But what if sleep isn't actually the problem? What if insomnia, restless sleep, or frequent waking are simply symptoms of something deeper happening inside your metabolism, hormones, liver, nervous system, or circadian rhythm? Because here's what many people don't realize. Sleep is not something your body does. Sleep is something your body allows. And when the internal conditions are wrong, the body will resist sleep no matter how tired you feel. What the research shows is that sleep and metabolism are deeply connected. Your blood sugar, insulin levels, cortisol rhythm, liver function, inflammation, nutrient status, and even the timing of your meals all influence whether your brain receives the signal that it's safe to sleep. Recent research continues to show that circadian rhythms and metabolic health are tightly linked, with disruptions in one affecting the other. This matters far beyond feeling tired the next day. Poor sleep raises cortisol. Elevated cortisol can increase insulin resistance. Insulin resistance makes fat loss harder. Sleep deprivation can also impair glucose control and metabolic health, creating a vicious cycle that affects energy, cravings, body composition, and long-term health. In other words, if you're trying to lose weight, improve energy, support healthy aging, optimize hormones, or simply feel better, sleep is one of the most powerful levers you can pull. But instead of focusing on sleeping pills, melatonin gummies, or temporary fixes, we're going to focus on root causes. We're going to look at what's really happening inside the body when sleep breaks down. You'll learn why cortisol may be waking you up, how unstable blood sugar can sabotage deep sleep, why your liver plays a bigger role than most people realize, how meal timing affects your biological clock, and most importantly, what practical steps you can take starting tonight. And if you're serious about improving your health naturally, stay with me until the end because some of the biggest sleep disruptors are probably not the ones you've been told about. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. Every day, I share science-based strategies to help you improve your metabolism, energy, fat burning, and long-term health naturally. Let's start with one of the most overlooked causes of poor sleep, a disrupted cortisol rhythm. When most people hear the word cortisol, they think of stress. But cortisol isn't inherently bad. In fact, you need cortisol to survive. Cortisol is designed to follow a very specific daily pattern. It should be highest in the morning to help you wake up, become alert, and have energy for the day. Then it should gradually decline throughout the afternoon and evening, reaching its lowest point around bedtime. The problem begins when this rhythm gets flipped. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Imagine your body has a built-in sunrise and sunset system. Cortisol is the sunrise signal. Melatonin is the sunset signal. These hormones work like a seesaw. As cortisol goes down, melatonin goes up. As cortisol rises, melatonin gets suppressed. Now imagine you're working late, scrolling on your phone at night, worrying about tomorrow, drinking caffeine too late, or dealing with chronic stress. Your brain starts receiving signals that it's still daytime. As a result, cortisol stays elevated when it should be falling. You feel exhausted because you've been awake all day, but biologically, your brain is receiving mixed instructions. One system is saying, sleep. Another system is saying, stay alert. And that's when people find themselves lying in bed with a tired body and a wide-awake mind. What the research shows is that elevated evening cortisol is associated with insomnia, longer sleep onset, more nighttime awakenings, and poorer sleep quality overall. Chronic activation of the stress response can also disrupt the body's natural circadian rhythm, making restorative sleep much harder to achieve. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your brain as an airport. Melatonin is the signal that tells planes it's safe to land. Cortisol is the signal that tells planes to stay airborne. If both signals are happening at the same time, the system becomes chaotic. No matter how badly the planes want to land, they can't do it safely. The same thing happens with sleep, so what can you do? Start by controlling your morning and evening light exposure. Within 30 minutes of waking, get outside and expose your eyes to natural sunlight for at least 10 to 20 minutes. This helps anchor your circadian rhythm and tells the brain when the day begins. Then, after sunset, begin reducing artificial light, especially bright overhead lighting and screens close to bedtime. Second, avoid caffeine at least 8 to 10 hours before sleep. Many people metabolize caffeine much more slowly than they realize. Third, create a cortisol-lowering evening routine. This could include a short walk after dinner, gentle stretching, reading, prayer, meditation, breathwork, or simply spending time away from digital stimulation. A practical protocol is the 3-2-1 rule. 3 hours before bed, stop eating. 2 hours before bed, stop working. 1 hour before bed, stop screens whenever possible. These simple habits help shift the nervous system out of performance mode and into recovery mode. And here's an important point. Many people try to fix sleep with supplements before fixing their cortisol rhythm. But if the body's wake-up hormone is firing at the wrong time, you're treating the symptom instead of the cause. Fix the rhythm, and sleep often improves naturally. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. Every day, I share science-based strategies that help you improve energy, metabolism, fat burning, and long-term health by addressing the root causes, not just the symptoms. Now let's talk about one of the most surprising causes of waking up in the middle of the night: unstable blood sugar. Many people assume that if they wake up at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., the problem must be stress, anxiety, or simply getting older. But in many cases, the real issue is metabolic. Here's what's really going on inside your body. While you're sleeping, your brain continues to require a steady supply of energy. Even though you're not eating, your body is working hard behind the scenes to maintain stable blood sugar levels. Under normal conditions, the liver gradually releases stored glucose throughout the night, providing a slow and controlled fuel supply. But if your blood sugar regulation is impaired, things can become unstable. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your body is a hybrid car. During the night, your fuel tank should smoothly switch between stored glucose and stored body fat. A metabolically flexible body makes this transition effortlessly. But if the body has become heavily dependent on frequent carbohydrate intake, the fuel switch becomes inefficient. When blood sugar starts dropping too quickly, the brain perceives a potential energy emergency. And what does the body do in an emergency? It releases cortisol and adrenaline. These are survival hormones. Their job is to rapidly increase blood sugar and keep the brain functioning. The problem is that these same hormones also wake you up, so you suddenly find yourself wide awake at 3 a.m. Your heart may feel slightly faster. Your mind may begin racing. You may even feel hungry. Most people think they have insomnia. In reality, their body may be activating a metabolic rescue mission. Research has shown that glucose instability can trigger counter-regulatory hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol, increasing arousal and disrupting sleep continuity. Individuals with poorer glucose regulation often experience more fragmented sleep and reduced sleep quality. This creates a vicious cycle. Poor sleep worsens insulin sensitivity. Worsened insulin sensitivity leads to greater blood sugar fluctuations. Greater fluctuations create more nighttime awakenings, and the cycle continues. So how do we fix it? First, prioritize protein at dinner. A meal centered around high-quality protein, healthy fats, and non-starchy vegetables tends to create more stable overnight blood sugar compared to meals loaded with refined carbohydrates. Second, avoid large amounts of sugar, desserts, sweetened beverages, or processed snacks in the evening. Many people experience a blood sugar spike followed by a crash several hours later, right in the middle of the night. Third, improve metabolic flexibility. Regular exercise, resistance training, walking after meals, and maintaining a healthy insulin response help the body become more efficient at using stored fat for fuel overnight. Fourth, if you're constantly waking up hungry at night, pay attention to your overall calorie and protein intake during the day. Sometimes the issue isn't just blood sugar instability, it's simply inadequate nutrition. The key takeaway is this: the brain values energy security above almost everything else. If your body believes fuel is becoming scarce during sleep, it will prioritize survival over recovery. And survival hormones will always beat sleep hormones. Fixed blood sugar stability and many nighttime awakenings begin to disappear without any sleep medication at all. Now let's explore a connection that rarely gets discussed in conventional sleep conversations, yet it may be one of the most important pieces of the puzzle: your liver. When people think about sleep, they usually focus on the brain, but your liver is working all night long, and its ability to do that job efficiently has a major impact on whether you sleep deeply or wake up feeling exhausted. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Think of the liver as the body's overnight maintenance crew. While you're sleeping, the liver helps regulate blood sugar, process hormones, recycle metabolic waste products, manage inflammation, and support countless biochemical reactions. If this system is overloaded or functioning inefficiently, sleep quality can suffer. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine a city that performs most of its maintenance work at night: road repairs, garbage collection, electrical system inspections, infrastructure upgrades. If those crews are delayed, understaffed, or overwhelmed, problems begin accumulating throughout the city. The same thing happens inside the body. The liver performs many of its housekeeping functions while you're resting. When liver health is compromised by excess sugar, excessive alcohol, chronic inflammation, nutrient deficiencies, or metabolic dysfunction, the body's ability to maintain stable physiology during sleep becomes more difficult. One important example is blood sugar regulation. As we discussed earlier, the liver acts like a fuel reservoir throughout the night. If glycogen storage and release become inefficient, the body may compensate by increasing stress hormones, leading to nighttime awakenings. The liver is also involved in hormone metabolism. Hormones such as cortisol, estrogen, and other signaling molecules must be properly processed and cleared. When these systems become less efficient, Hormonal balance may be affected, which can indirectly influence sleep quality. What the research consistently shows is that metabolic health and liver health are closely associated with sleep quality. Conditions such as metabolic dysfunction-associated fatty liver disease are frequently linked with poorer sleep, increased inflammation, and disrupted circadian regulation. So what practical steps can support both liver function and sleep? First, reduce your intake of ultra-processed foods and added sugars. Fructose-heavy foods, sugary beverages, and highly processed snacks can place an additional burden on liver metabolism when consumed regularly. Second, finish dinner earlier whenever possible. Giving the digestive system and liver a few hours before bedtime allows more energy to be directed toward recovery rather than ongoing digestion. A useful target for many people is finishing the final meal at least 3 hours before sleep. Third, prioritize protein-rich whole foods, colorful vegetables, and healthy fats. These provide the amino acids, minerals, antioxidants, and nutrients needed for efficient metabolic function. Fourth, consider a gentle walk after dinner. Even 10 to 20 minutes of movement can improve glucose handling, reduce post-meal blood sugar spikes, and support overnight metabolic stability. And here's a critical point. Many people try to force better sleep by focusing only on the brain, but sleep is a full-body process. The brain may initiate sleep, but the body's metabolic systems have to support it. When the liver is healthy, blood sugar remains more stable. Hormonal signaling becomes more efficient, inflammation is better controlled, and the body is able to dedicate more resources to repair, recovery, and deep restorative sleep. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. Every day, I share practical, science-based strategies to help you improve metabolism, energy, fat burning, and healthy aging by addressing the root causes that most people overlook. Let's talk about one of the biggest sleep disruptors in the modern world, artificial light. The reason this matters is because your brain doesn't actually know what time it is. It doesn't read a clock. It reads light. For nearly all of human history, sunrise signaled the start of the day, and darkness signaled the start of the night. Our hormones, metabolism, digestion, body temperature, and sleep cycles evolved around this predictable pattern. But today, many people spend most of their day indoors under dim artificial lighting and most of their evenings surrounded by bright screens, televisions, tablets, and LED lights. As a result, the brain receives confusing information. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Deep inside the brain is a small structure called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, often referred to as the body's master clock. Its job is to coordinate daily rhythms throughout the entire body. When light enters your eyes, specialized cells send signals directly to this clock. The clock then adjusts the production of hormones, including cortisol and melatonin. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine the master clock as the conductor of a large orchestra. Every organ system is a different section of musicians. The liver, the pancreas, the adrenal glands, the digestive system, the immune system, the brain. The conductor keeps everyone synchronized. But if the conductor receives inaccurate timing information, the entire orchestra begins playing out of rhythm. That's exactly what happens when we expose ourselves to bright light late into the evening. The brain interprets that light as daytime. Melatonin production gets delayed, cortisol remains higher than it should, body temperature stays elevated, and the body struggles to transition into sleep mode. Research continues to show that evening exposure to bright light, particularly blue-enriched light from screens and LEDs, can delay melatonin release, shift circadian timing, reduce sleep quality, and impair next-day alertness and metabolic function. What's even more interesting is that many people focus only on reducing nighttime light while ignoring morning light. But morning light may be even more important. Morning sunlight helps set the timing of your biological clock for the entire day. When this signal is missing, the body's circadian rhythm can drift later and later. So what should you do? Start with the morning. Within 30 minutes of waking, get outside for natural light exposure. Aim for at least 10 to 20 minutes. If it's cloudy, spend a little longer outdoors. This simple habit sends a powerful message to the brain. The day has started. Then protect the evening. About 2 to 3 hours before bed, begin reducing light intensity in your environment. Use lamps instead of bright overhead lighting. Dim screens whenever possible. Consider blue light blocking glasses if you frequently work at night, and avoid scrolling in bed. Remember, your brain doesn't know you're checking emails or watching videos. It only knows that bright light is hitting the retina. One more important strategy. Try to maintain a consistent sleep and wake schedule even on weekends. Your circadian clock thrives on predictability. When bedtimes constantly shift, the brain struggles to maintain hormonal rhythm. The key takeaway is this. Sleep is not just about darkness, it's about timing. When your brain receives the right light signals at the right times, melatonin rises naturally, cortisol follows its proper rhythm, and sleep becomes dramatically easier. In many cases, correcting circadian signals can improve sleep quality even before changing diet, supplements, or other interventions. Now let's discuss a root cause that often flies under the radar: Nutrient deficiencies. Many people spend years searching for the perfect sleep supplement while missing the fact that the body may simply lack the raw materials needed to create deep, restorative sleep in the first place. Sleep is not just a neurological event, it's a biochemical process, and biochemistry requires nutrients. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your brain is constantly producing and regulating neurotransmitters, chemical messengers that influence relaxation, mood, sleep, and recovery. Your nervous system also relies on minerals and vitamins to regulate electrical activity, muscle relaxation, stress responses, and hormone production. When key nutrients become depleted, the sleep system can become unstable. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine you're building a house. The blueprint may be perfect. The construction crew may be ready. But if the delivery trucks never bring enough bricks, lumber, or concrete, construction slows down. The same principle applies to sleep. Your body may know exactly how to sleep. It simply may not have all the materials required to execute the process efficiently. One of the most important nutrients is magnesium. Magnesium participates in hundreds of enzymatic reactions throughout the body and plays a major role in nervous system regulation, muscle relaxation, and stress response control. Research suggests that inadequate magnesium status may be associated with poorer sleep quality, increased sleep difficulties, and greater nervous system excitability. Potassium is another overlooked mineral. Healthy potassium levels help regulate nerve signaling, muscle function, and cellular hydration, all of which influence sleep quality. Vitamin D also deserves attention. While often thought of as a bone health vitamin, vitamin D receptors are found throughout the brain and nervous system. Low vitamin D levels have been associated with poorer sleep quality and greater sleep disturbances in multiple studies. Then there are the B vitamins. These nutrients help support energy production, neurotransmitter synthesis, and circadian rhythm regulation. Deficiencies can sometimes contribute to fatigue, poor stress resilience, and disrupted sleep patterns. So what can you do? First, focus on nutrient-dense whole foods. Instead of looking for a miracle supplement, start with the foundation. Include quality protein sources, leafy greens, colorful vegetables, nuts, seeds, avocados, eggs, seafood, and other minimally processed foods. Second, consider magnesium-rich foods such as pumpkin seeds, spinach, almonds, and dark leafy greens. Third, make sure you're getting adequate sunlight exposure during the day to support healthy vitamin D status. And if you suspect a deficiency, discuss appropriate testing with your healthcare provider. Fourth, avoid assuming that fatigue automatically means you need more caffeine. Sometimes fatigue is the body's way of signaling that it lacks the nutrients needed to produce energy efficiently. Here's the key point. A sleeping pill may temporarily force sedation, but nutrients help create the biological conditions that allow natural sleep to occur. That's a very different goal. We're not trying to knock the body unconscious. We're trying to restore the systems that produce deep restorative sleep on their own. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. Every day I share practical, science-based strategies to help you optimize metabolism, energy, fat loss, and longevity by working with your body's biology, not against it. The final root cause may be the most important of all, an overactive nervous system. Because at the end of the day, sleep is not something you can force. You can force yourself to stay awake. You cannot force yourself to sleep. Sleep happens when the brain decides the environment is safe enough to let go of conscious control. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your nervous system operates through two major modes. The first is the sympathetic nervous system, often called the fight or flight system. This is your performance mode, your action mode, your survival mode. The second is the parasympathetic nervous system, often called the rest and digest system. This is your recovery mode, your repair mode, your sleep mode. The challenge is that modern life keeps many people trapped in a low-grade state of sympathetic activation almost all day long. Deadlines, notifications, emails, financial stress, relationship stress, constant stimulation, information overload. The body interprets all of these signals as reasons to remain alert. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine you're camping in the wilderness. If you hear branches snapping outside your tent all night, are you going to fall into deep sleep? Probably not. Even if you're physically exhausted, part of your brain remains vigilant because it perceives potential danger. Now here's the important part. The brain doesn't distinguish very well between a predator outside the tent and a flood of stress signals inside modern life. In both situations, it receives the same message. Stay alert. Research consistently demonstrates that chronic stress increases nervous system arousal, elevates cortisol and adrenaline signaling, and interferes with both sleep onset and sleep quality. This explains why some people feel tired all day, but suddenly become alert the moment they get into bed. The distractions disappear. The nervous system finally has space to process everything it has been carrying, and the mind starts racing. So how do we create a state of biological safety? First, establish a consistent evening shutdown ritual. The goal is to send repeated signals that the day is ending. This doesn't need to be complicated. Reading, light stretching, journaling, prayer, meditation, breath work, a warm shower. Choose 1 or 2 practices and perform them consistently. Second, reduce stimulation before bed. Many people spend the final hour of their day consuming emotionally activating content, checking work emails, or scrolling social media. Then they wonder why their brain won't switch off. Remember, the nervous system cannot slam on the brakes at bedtime if it's been flooring the accelerator all evening. Third, use simple breathing techniques. One effective method is extending the exhale. For example, inhale for 4 seconds and exhale for 6 to 8 seconds. Longer exhalations stimulate parasympathetic activity and encourage relaxation. Fourth, protect your sleep environment. A cool, dark, quiet room reduces sensory input and helps reinforce safety signals to the brain. Most importantly, stop treating sleep like a performance test. The harder people try to force sleep, the more frustrated they become, and frustration itself becomes another stress signal. Instead, focus on creating the conditions that allow sleep to emerge naturally, because this is the key lesson. The body only enters deep restorative sleep when it feels safe. Safe from blood sugar emergencies. Safe from excessive cortisol. Safe from circadian confusion, safe from constant nervous system activation. When those signals are addressed, sleep often becomes far easier than most people imagine. The goal isn't to sedate the body. The goal is to remove the obstacles preventing the body from doing what it was designed to do.